A lot of people, they're still in their story, the kind of victim mentality. Poor me, I can't, I don't know how. It worked for you, but it won't for me. It's very closed, like very restrictive. And all it takes is like, whew, it's just a choice.
I'm Luke, and you're listening to the Luke Mind Power Podcast. What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode on the Luke Mind Power Podcast. It's a blessing to be alive, blessing to be here with you guys. I've got a freaking extraordinary guest with me today. Her name is Lorie Ladd. She is a freaking amazing teacher, speaker, author, and she's going to be sharing with us some extraordinary, powerful wisdom as I've experienced already for many, many years, following her on social media, listening to her, and we have I already know that we have a lot of stuff that we're going to relate with. Lorie, welcome to the Luke Mind Power Podcast.
Thanks, Luke. It's good to finally connect with you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know that, as I said, there's so much, like when I've heard you speak, I was like, she's speaking my language. Yeah. So I know you're in Kenya right now, but I know that you've got a powerful story, and I mean, we all do. Everyone has a story, and it's only by communication and using this gift that we have, which I feel like many of us are just suppressing our pain and suppress in this low vibrational frequency that we're living in fear, doubt. We're not living our dreams. We're afraid to open up. We're afraid to stand up for ourselves, and I think obviously a lot of that is because of our past and stuff. So yeah, what is your story? Like, how have you got yourself into this really powerful place of, obviously, it might not be like this, like, hey, look at me, kind of like I'm this powerful woman, but more like, I feel like you're in a very peaceful place, but obviously, there's a process to get you there. So give us a bit of an insight on, like, where you came from and how you're doing what you're doing now.
Yeah, we all have such an amazing story, right? That we can share and speak about ourselves. When I was around 13, I was like, well, grew up in Hermosa Beach in California. And I just got this like massive kind of download that I was going to be assisting humanity in this evolution that humanity would be going through. And I was 13. I didn't know what that meant, but I knew it was in my cells. Like when I heard this information, it was coming from me, right? It was just like, there was just this dropped in download, boom. I'll never forget that moment. It was like, you are here for a big purpose. You're here for something massive. And I spent most of my life kind of ignoring that nudge. I ignored it through all kinds of addictions. And I also had some pretty intense abuse when I was younger. And so it disassociated me from a really young age, disassociated me from my body and from feeling. And so it took me about 30 years on and off to commit to what I'm here to, like, what my purpose is, and speaking these truths and talking about what we're going through this evolution. It was around, I don't know, probably like 8 years ago when I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to commit to this work. And up until that point, I really didn't do a lot of personal work. I didn't really dive into myself. I didn't do the deep, deep work. It was only when I committed to my purpose, it became quite obvious that there's no way I can show up in my purpose and my mission without doing the deep inner work. And so what I have found in these last like 8 years, where I started showing up, doing my work, putting up a website, offering stuff for people, was that if I don't do the personal internal work over and over and over again, I won't be able to show up in my highest potential. And so it became this like massive deep dive into deep, deep trauma and constant reevaluating how I see myself and the thoughts that I have, the emotions that I'm feeling. And it hasn't, I don't know about you, but it hasn't necessarily gotten easier, this internal work that's constantly showing up. But I'm so comfortable with it now that I don't hide from it. I don't run from it. I feel like in order for us to show up in our highest potential and to change this planet, which is what we're doing, we have to simultaneously do this deep inner work. It just goes hand in hand. You can't really bypass it. And which is, freeing ourselves from the thoughts, freeing ourselves from the emotions, which is not getting rid of them, but knowing that they're not us, And so my journey has been interesting, but I've always had this deep knowing that I'm here to do something big. And I think all of us have that in us, that there is something that we're called to do here on this planet, whatever it is, even if it's to be a mom or to, to work at a bank, whatever. I don't know what it is for each person, but there's something in us. Our soul will keep calling us to it until we step into it. That's what I believe. And everything's going to show us what we need to see in order to pop into that highest potential, and it just takes you, but you got to do the inner work, over and over and over and over again, that deep inner work. And it just feels like layers keep coming off. And then you think you're good, another fucking layer, right? Then you're like, I've got this. And then another layer. And so it's like really, really humbling to realize that I can't show up for humanity unless I continue to show up for myself. It just doesn't work.
Thanks for sharing. I say this a lot. You're never going to be fully healed. It's an ongoing process. I know a lot of people out there, I'm not going to have a relationship until I'm fully healed. You'll be waiting a lifetime. It's a process. There's a continuation of everything. The evolution of your life and you expanding, and you're always going to get to a place where you're in your comfort zone, and it's like, well, what's the next level? Like, I did a few events this year, and then I got back to where was I? I got back to Australia, and I was like, no, I was leaving. Yeah, I came back to Dubai, and I'm like, well, what's next? And I'm like, well, you're going for Christmas back to Australia. I said, do an event in Australia. I'm like, okay. So I call my team and I'm like, hey, organize an event in Sydney. But what's that? That's called, well, what's next? Like, grow, because it's easy to sit on my podcast, easy to keep posting dance videos. Easy, like, these are the things that I've gotten comfortable with, So it's like, yeah, like connecting, working, growing, like this is, and that's why I would say, like, if you're not growing, what are you doing?
It's so true, because I think people, God bless humanity, but we want the easy way out, right? So like we want it to be easy. And you've probably practiced many times over what it feels like to kind of jump and just decide, I'm going to put an event on, or I'm going to start a podcast. It's not easy for a lot of humans to trust that and to do that. So the more you do it, the more it becomes comfortable for you, right? Like it didn't start off necessarily perhaps that easy in the beginning for you and I and other people that are showing up in this way. It's like we had to trust something bigger than ourselves. We had to start. You have to jump, right? You have to jump into the river and say, okay, I'm going to do an event. You know anything about doing events? No idea, but we're going to do an event.
I don't know shit, man. Like, seriously, I actually, like, some of the events that I went to, I learned from them.
Yeah.
Like, I was sitting there the whole day, like some of these events that I've spoken at, for the purpose of learning from them to see how they do things, So, like, I think that's the biggest, like, even for people who haven't started a podcast before, it's like there's this massive fear, almost like a block. And it's like, you're not supposed to know it all, And that's why it's like sometimes you're on the edge of that cliff and it's like you just need someone to kick you.
You do. You need to just do it.
Once you start falling, you'll be like, shit, I need to fly. How do I flap my wings? How do I, like, figure it out? Like, you don't know how to swim, but you fall in the deep end. It's like, no, you'll start trying to survive, The
way I describe it to people, I try to describe everything like on an energetic level. Tell me if you relate to this. Like, if you stay open, right? Okay, because a lot of people are really confused right now. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. I don't know who I am. I don't know if I can do this. There's just a lot of confusion that people are in. It's like, okay, you can have that confusion, but there's this energetic experience of like, okay, I'm going to stay open to the world, right? For instance, you came back to Dubai. You were like, what's next? Like the what's next is opening. I'm staying open. My arms are open. I'm looking around. Here's the thing, like, when you first start out kind of trusting in the flow of life and taking risks and saying, fuck it, I'm going to try something different, or you're going to fall. It might not work out the way you want it to, but it's like you're energetically pulling things and saying, is this it? Is this it? Is this it? Is this it? Nope, that's not, but you got to pull. You got to go out and start playing in this kind of quantum field where it's like, what's next? Is it this? Is it this? But it's an opening, right? Where a lot of people, they're still in their story, right? The kind of victim mentality, poor me, I can't, I don't know how, it worked for you, but it won't for me. It's very closed, like very restrictive, right? And all it takes is like, whew, it's just a choice. And the choice there may be time, like it may require patience, perhaps, for the next thing to pop in, or the knowingness of what's next. I mean, one of the things that I do with my work that's a little bit different is I don't do anything, I don't offer something next or do anything until it hits into my body where it's like, this is it. This is what's next. And then I follow it. But if you say what's next is going to come. It's going to come. It's just a matter of, is it going to come tomorrow? Is it going to come in a week? Is it going to come in a month? Right? But it's going to arrive because you're saying to the universe, show me, instead of I can't, I don't know how, it's not going to work. I don't have the money. I don't have this. It's all story.
But seek and you shall find. I mean, ask and the door will be opened. Like, what you seek is seeking you. If you're not looking for something else, opening that vortex, then nothing's going to come. You know what I mean? And what you're talking about is also just mindset, right? Like, you can look on social media. I know myself, just given the amount of content that I've posted over the last freaking, let's say 4 years. Even though this has been going for me for 6 years now, that you can easily make assumptions for yourself in the wrong way by looking at what everybody else is doing and going, it's too hard. There's too much people doing the same thing as what I want to do, or the market is saturated. It's like, no, how many types of brands of sneakers are there? And people keep still creating new sneakers and brands, and you know what I mean? Like, and so it's really just a mindset. And I think it also definitely has to come down to, the drive, the passion. How much do you want it? How badly do you want to change, or how badly do you want another level of life, or more happiness, or something different? Because if you don't, well, you'll just keep making excuses. That brings me to you. When you started this, what was like the motivation? Was there like something that you had to something that like completely, like you were just like, I'm done. I got to change. I'm ready for action. I've had enough of this life. I'm stepping into this now. How did that kind of work for you? And, when you were like stepping into this, like, was there fear? Was there people you had to let go of? Like, how did it work for you?
Yeah. Here's the thing I always tell people. The fear doesn't go away, right? It's like, you just do it regardless of the fear. If I waited for the fear to go away, I would never have done it. So everyone's waiting until they're ready. You're never going to fucking be ready. I can promise you that. You will never be ready, ever. Every time I do something new, like, okay, we're going to start doing live events, there's always this like nervousness, like, I'm going to fuck up. I'm not going to know, so that doesn't go anywhere. And I have imposter syndrome, which is something I'm working on, which is basically like, I'm a fraud feeling, right? Like, do people, like, there's a deep piece that I'm working on. Part of why I came to Africa, I'll answer your question in a second, but part of why I came to Africa was like, Lorie, you need to really like heal this deep unworthiness, because it's stopping my growth. It's like, I'm only able to go so far in what I'm here to do because this deep, deep kind of underlying belief that it feels like I'm not even choosing it. It feels so cellular, like this piece that can really kind of put a lid on, but what you're going to jump into and what you're going to say yes to. Here's the thing. So to answer your question, I was working in a private equity firm in San Francisco on a ferry. And again, that voice came in like, it's time to get to work. You need to do what you came here to do. And I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what I was here to do. I knew it was time to get to work and I needed to quit my job. And so I went to this like really powerful spiritual mountain, Mount Shasta in Northern California for the weekend. And I just committed 100%. I did like a ceremony and I was like, I am in 100%. I will do whatever it takes to step into my work and to do my work. And I made that commitment to myself. And from that point forward, I had like a 6-month plan. I was going to quit my job in 6 months and I would do anything and everything, no matter how scary it was, no matter what it looked like, no matter how many times I had to jump into the unknown. And so I just started following my own guidance, and it was like, create a website. All right. I still didn't know what I was here to do. I didn't know what my skills were. Started a website. And it was like, okay, now you're going to start offering sessions to people. I was like, I don't even know how to do that. And I just started opening. I was like, opening, what's next? What's next? And the whole time I couldn't see what was next. You know, I think a lot of people wait until there's like a map in front of them. And it's like, okay, this is what's next. And then this is what it's going to look like. And then it's going to look like this. And there's no map. There's no like, when you jump and when you start to, you know, do what you came here to do, whatever it is, what your passion is, you're not going to necessarily have be able to see what it's going to look like. In fact, I would say you're not going to have any idea. Like when you started, you probably had no idea. Well, maybe you did. Maybe you kind of had an idea.
Man, I was wasting time, eh? Like, I mean, I invested in a business coach, and he helped me set up my coaching business basically because I was wasting like so much time on calls with people, giving them so much value, and then no one wanted to keep working with me. Like it was like, oh, thanks so much, Luke. That was really great, you know? And I was like, well, do you want to like continue? And they're like, yeah, I'll be in touch. I'm like, shit, man. I just spent like an hour and 20 minutes with this person. So I didn't know how to monetize. That was my biggest problem. And so the first thing happened for me was I got scammed over $100,000 because I worked with someone who said they were going to help me, and I was just paying them, and it was just prolonging that over this 6-month period of like me giving them money and them not like, I got a lot of like value out of the time, but nothing ever eventuated into me actually monetizing like these programs or coaching business, whatever I was trying to do with this person. And then I met my business coach, and he's like, hey man, I think I can help you, you know? So I'm
Wow.
curious, like, did
That's
you
crazy.
invest in yourself and get someone to help you to kind of like understand how to like put yourself out there and, you know, be more efficient? That's, you know.
No, and I wouldn't recommend that necessarily. I think there's something to be said, especially in 2023, 2024, 2025. It's a whole different game. I didn't have anybody by my side for quite some time.
So how were you doing it? Like, how were you doing it without like losing your, you know what I mean? Like, what were you just doing? Like, were people just signing up or
Yeah,
like
I
initially
just
for the calls? Because I was bringing like people on for free and basically just spending like an hour with them, an hour 30 minutes with them, and then I just started realizing that this is not working because I didn't know how to do it. Like,
I just started like offering things for a certain price
right.
on my YouTube channel or on
Mm, mm,
Instagram.
mm.
And this was like 2016, 2007, 2017 is really when I started. And I would just offer I would just make it up. I was like, I think I'm going to do a class on whatever. Making it up, meaning like I didn't study and do all this behind the scenes stuff. It just intuitively was like, okay, this is what's next. And then I offered it, and I didn't have an expectation of like how many people and what I was going to make. And I just let life show me what's
That's
next.
that's amazing.
Yeah. And it's at this point, it's a blessing and a curse because I don't work the way a lot of people work, where it's like, okay, here's my Q1, here's my Q2, here's my Q3. Like I don't, and that is a blessing in the sense that I'm always in this kind of more flow state, but it's not a blessing because I'm not making the type of money that I could probably make if I focused and sort of, you know, really took this business as a business. So I'm always playing in those two realms of like being in this more flow state where I just kind of wait until what's next drops. And really looking at this like a business and running it like a business. So like my recommendation now is like get people that have the skill set to market you in this world right now, because the stress around trying to figure out how to get out there can stop people, right? Like you said, it's like you look out there and there's everybody is doing everything, and it's like you can't let that stop you, you know? And so it can get overwhelming if you get caught in the details of like, well, how do I do this and how do I do that? And it will stop a lot of people.
For everybody who's listening right now, I mean, this is really very powerful because, I mean, there's not one way that you can establish yourself or set yourself up, you know, and it's never too late either. You know, again, that's just a mindset. If you think like, you know, the quote, you know, if you think you can and you think you can't, you're right. You know what I mean? So if you think that you can't do it or there's too many people out there or whatever it is, well, then that's what you're going to think, right? But as Lorie's sharing, you know, she just intuitively kind of just started taking action and doing it her way, and you've gotten to where you've gotten to, you know, which is amazing, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know, it's more or less just looking at where you are right now and going, you know, is this working for me or not? And I think just these social media platforms like YouTube, for example, to be able to, you know, give value and receive from people who are tuning in to your messages. I mean, I say, you know, YouTube is one of the most powerful platforms that we have as well. Instagram is powerful. TikTok's powerful. And I think a lot of the times that what I hear is, you know, I'm not tech savvy, right, from people, because, you know, and that's just an excuse. Like, you can learn. You can. My dad's 79 and he watches YouTube. He didn't know how to use YouTube once upon a time. And now he's using a laptop, you know what I mean? So I think it's interesting. It's valuable, powerful stuff to hear from you, because there's people out there that are tuning in right now and they're a bit hesitant or they're not sure how to go about like establishing themselves. And like, as I share on my platforms, you know, I do a bit of comedy, I dance, I speak, like I'm doing a lot of different things to connect, you know? So the purpose of why I'm doing that is like, I'm just showing you that you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be like this, you know?
Yeah, you don't have
you
to
have to be yourself.
Yeah, you don't have to have the fancy sets and the perfect microphone and the, you know, the backdrop. And
Yes.
like, it's like, no, you're like, every single one of us has this essence in us that wants to be expressed. And I think why people flock to you so much is that you're just you. And like, for you, it may be somewhat easy to just be yourself. I'm not exactly sure. Maybe it took some internal
Lori,
inner
I used
work.
to not be able to dance unless I had alcohol or had some Coke. I would not be able to dance. I couldn't feel the rhythm of the sound unless I was fucking high.
Wow. Wow.
Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah, I
like,
do.
what I've had to do over, like what I've had to like go into a bar or club, I'll be like, fuck, give me a few drinks first. Like, let me calm down. And then I can talk to a girl and then I can listen to the music and dance.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, and I think that, you know, and that's the thing, like connecting with the sound of the energy of the music and to be able to feel the rhythm and dance to it like naturally. That's the thing. I wanted to be naturally confident. And I fucking believed that you were born with that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I believe that's one of the struggles of many people is like everyone looks and is like, I want that confidence. How do I get that? I want that happiness. How do I get that? You know, so we're finding it in the external world, you know, which is the external gratification, external validation, the approval of others. Oh, you know, people pleasing and shit. Like if we over extend ourselves to help other people, then we're going to receive approval from them because like you're such a nice person because you helped me, rather than kind of bringing shit back to ourselves and filling ourselves up. How do you teach people to like build confidence and to like step into their authenticity and like own that shit?
I love what you were saying about the drinking and the needing. I think in order to like feel comfortable and to feel who we are, you know, I think that one of the most courageous things that we can do is figure out who we are and how to, it's crazy to think about this, but like one of the most difficult things that will be faced doing this humanness is how to be ourselves. like how to really just be ourselves. And the fact that we don't know how to do that, we're programmed and conditioned to try to fit in or to feel insecure, or to feel inadequate, or all the things, right? And when we see it in others, we flock to it, like real authenticity, we flock to. Because when we see people really expressing their emotion, when we see somebody dancing and just letting it all out, that authentic, like I'm not afraid to say anything about myself. I don't hide anything. I don't pretend that I got it all together, and I think that the more authentic I can be with my own life, which is not always easy because you got to be honest with yourself. But the more that I can be really authentic with what I'm experiencing, there's nothing wrong with it. There's absolutely nothing wrong with what I'm feeling or what I'm thinking. It's just the choice to believe it or not, right? Like, am I choosing to believe that I can't do this? Am I choosing to believe that I'm all these things that people have told me my whole life? And really having the awareness, right? The awareness to see it, the awareness to recognize my patterns, the awareness to hold myself and to be okay with the shadowy aspects that come up, like befriend them, because otherwise we are constantly, to be authentic, to be you, and to be comfortable in this world, to be safe in this world, you have to be able to embrace every aspect of you. You have to be able to embrace the insecure Lorie. You have to be able to embrace the inner child that was sexually abused. You have to be able to embrace the addict that used all these things. You have to embrace the people pleaser. Embrace it meaning like you can be here, like you're okay to be here, but I won't follow you. Right? Like I'm not going to let you lead the race any longer. Like I'm not making decisions based on that wounded inner child. I'm not making decisions based on that people pleaser. I'm not making decisions based on the insecure voice. And that's where your work, I think, is so powerful, because you're constantly speaking to that authentic soul that's within us. You kind of you move past the layers of story that we hold as humans, and you dive right into that authentic version of each person. I think that's what's so powerful about your voice and your work. There's no to-do list that you have necessarily, right? It's just like, get to it, make the choice, figure it out, like, so in order to do that in my world is I have to allow everything. Like, don't run from it. Don't even fix it. Just be like, look at you. Wow. Like, even what brought me to Africa was like, man, something's asking me to level up in my work, but I have such a deep unworthiness that needs to be, and it needs to be almost like embodied in a way, like integrated. It's like there needs to be like an integration of this unworthiness, because for some reason it's still kind of unconsciously running the show. And so what I've been noticing the last 4 or 5 days is this embracing, almost like this letting go of having to actually fix or change that part of Lorie. And there's like this deeper acceptance, or this deeper allowing. And then in that, it dissolves. It starts dissolving. So it's really strange, like how to get people to stop fighting against the deep programming that we all have. One of the things I teach a lot, which is very difficult for people, is this process of allowing, where you start allowing what is. And when you allow what is, when you just allow the shit, the shadow, the whatever it is, it goes away naturally. But there has to be that awareness, that choice, right? It's really, really important that people understand, like, if you keep playing the victim, I am this, I'm unworthy, I am unlovable, I am ... right? And I need to heal these things, then you're deeply attaching to that. And there's like some sort of fix that needs to happen before you can make choices that are going to change your life. And it's like, no, you can allow whatever is right now. Okay, so you believe you're unworthy, so you believe, but you can choose from that place. How do you want to be? How do you want to react? How do you want to respond? So it's like both are allowed to be there. I believe that I'm unworthy. Okay, and what is your choice right now? Are you going to choose from that I believe I'm unworthy place, or are you going to choose from a different place? And that's the work that I'm always humbled by, is which aspect of me is kind of convincing my choice of how I'm going to make my next choice. Um, am I going to put on this event um, and feel confident, or am I going to not put on the event because I'm super insecure, right? So that's the choice. I either, and it's both, the insecurity can be here and the secure person can be here. And it's just like, which one am I going to choose? What am I going to choose from? Because I don't, and I think you were saying this earlier, like, I don't necessarily believe that this stuff goes away. Do you know what I mean? Like, this quote unquote kind of unworthy part of Lorie, she may be here forever. I don't give a shit. How am I choosing? Am I listening to that voice? Or am I listening to the authentic Lorie that says, fuck it, I don't care that you're telling me I'm unworthy. I'm going to do it anyway. Instead of waiting for that unworthiness voice to go away, it's like, what if you just did it? You like pulled yourself from the grips of unworthiness, and you forced yourself out anyway, regardless of what that voice is saying.
What's causing the unworthiness, and is that the same as not feeling enough? Because for me, I would say that I would be in the same boat for many years. It was the judgments of my physical appearance. It was life was not going kind of in the same flow or direction as all of my peers or friends. Comparing myself to others, also that can't then step back to like low self-esteem, low self-confidence, not feeling confident within myself, not loving myself, being rejected in relationships by women. So all of that amounting to, I'm not enough, or I'm not worthy of a healthy relationship, for example. So, I'm still happily in a relationship with myself. I'm still happily single, right? So one thing for me, because of all these experiences of what I've been through in the past, I absolutely despise letting the outside world tell me that I'm fucking not enough because I'm not in a fucking marriage, or I'm not in a relationship, or I don't have kids. Like, that fucking infuriates me, and that motivates me to fucking keep living my dream and living my best life and being happy. It's not something I'm avoiding, but to allow something outside of myself to dictate how I feel about myself. Because what I'm learning is that everyone wants to be accepted. We're emotional beings. We thrive off community. We thrive of being connected with something bigger, right? And so if we're not like other people, or if we're not doing what other people are doing, then we're not enough, or we're not, we have that feeling of like, well, I'm different. So I'm like, yeah, you're supposed to be fucking different, and you're supposed to own it like that. But that's the hard part, because when you're supposed to own your authenticity, your difference, that makes you stand out from people because you're not fucking fitting in. Right? And that's the challenge,
Yeah.
because we don't like judgment.
No, and we're programmed to fit in. We're programmed from the beginning of life that you have to stand in line, right? Get in line, get in line. Like, it's like, no, you've got to follow the rules. We are programmed to be like everybody else. And we are all very, very different. We're all very, very unique. And it's beautiful. As a woman, it's even more, there's so much pressure on women, um, to be married at a certain time, to have children by a certain time, to not have wrinkles on your face. Like there is just like, you have to keep this, you have to, like, just so much shit. And, one of the things that a lot of people will say to me is, I love that you're just so natural. You don't, you don't care what you look like. First of all, I was like, what do you mean I don't fucking care what I look? Do I look horrible? Do I look ugly? Like, what do you mean I don't care you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, what the fuck? But it's true. I don't give a fuck. I'm not going to not do a video because the lighting isn't okay. I'm not going to not do a video because I look fatter than normal or my face looks a certain way. Do you know how many people I know won't do videos because the lighting isn't okay or they don't look good, or all the filters that we have? Our world right now is literally designed to it perpetuates insecurity. It perpetuates it. Social media perpetuates judging yourself against other people, right? And the I'm not good enough. I'm not doing it the way they are. I don't look like them. I don't sound like them. It's like 10 times worse right now than it ever has been. Because, when you look at people online, you're like, fuck, dude, they got their shit together. They look perfect. They have no, you're just looking at like perfection on the screen. It's like, yeah, well, you don't know what's behind the scenes. You don't know what's actually how they're like manipulating, blah, 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 whatever it is, photos or pictures. So we have this facade or this illusion that we're in right now. And it can be very difficult to just pop out of it and start being our authentic, actual selves, like who we actually are. Like, who am I? How do I want to show up? What do I believe? How do I want to express myself? Like, what are my unique thoughts? What inspires me? Where's my joy? What brings me joy? And then starting to pay attention to like, oh my God, my father used to tell me this, or my mother used to tell me this, or all my friends used to tell me this, or all my friends tell me this, or, and starting to realize, fuck, is anything mine? Is everything I believe someone else's? Or is this really what I think? Is this really how I feel? Is this really how I believe? I mean, it's crazy how this evolution is in consciousness is literally pulling us back to our unique expressions. Really who we actually truly authentically are, and why that's so fucking difficult.
So, Lorie, I want to take you back to your childhood, because one thing that I've been experiencing lately, and it's just come to my attention, that a lot of the things that I do, like sometimes I make fucking weird sounds and shit, like I'll be listening to a song, I'm like, sure, 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 and I'll be doing this shit, right? And then I'm dancing, like I just bought myself a pair of Reebok pumps
Oh,
because
that's old school.
I remember being a kid and watching like NBA. And this was like when I was fucking like in primary school, And what I'm realizing is that like what happens to us as as children, like we lose our childhood when we become adult. We lose the aspect of having fun, being carefree, not giving a shit about what anyone thinks about us, right? So I'm curious, like, have you been able to like evolve into this new version of yourself, into your purpose, and take along with you this joy or things from your childhood that you used to do, and now you kind of integrate that into your personality at all, or into like your authenticity of who you are?
Yeah, it's interesting because I would say that the deeper I go into my work and what I'm here to do, and the more I start to become the girl that I was at 6 years old, 7 years old, 8 years old. It's like that Lorie is showing up more and more just naturally because of the layers that I'm peeling back. Like, I don't even think we realize the amount of layers of programming or trauma or conditioning that we have blocking us from what even is our joy. Like, I don't even know, 10 years ago or 6 years ago, 8 years ago, for me to try to tap into that little girl might have been very, very difficult, not even knowing how to do it. But the more that I do this inner work, which is basically just feeling everything and recognizing my beliefs or the beliefs that I think are me, and just constantly being in that state of awareness. What are my choices? What am I choosing? What are the programs I'm still doing? What relationship patterns do I still have? Why do I keep choosing these type of men? Why do I keep, like, everything that I'm recognizing is peeling back the layers so that Lorie can get back to the Lorie that was a 6-year old, just being herself, just being Lorie. And that's how we're designed to be in this life, is, that child. Even if I had a rough, I had sexual abuse at 6 years old. So that's, it, like, my world got kind of turned upside down at 6. And, and from 6 on, it was just a different world. But that Lorie that I can tap into, that's that my true authentic self, she was always there, even at 7 and 8 and 9. There was always moments where Lorie, the authentic spirit, came out. And even before the 6, the 5 and the 4 and the 3-year old, I can tap into that and feel her.
This is healing, Lorie. You know why? Because there's so many people that have completely disconnected from their inner child, from the younger version of themselves. And one thing that I always talk about is, like, I love him, man. Like I'm like his big brother. How I show up is like holding his hand and, like, bringing him with me and saying, hey, man, I know you were scared, but I've got your back now. Like, I love you so much that I'm not going to let anyone push you around ever again. I'm not going to let anyone judge you, And it's like this relationship that, I know that it's like weird. How can you, like, you're 39 years of age bloke, and you're talking about, like, your 10-year-old self. And I'm like, yeah, I know, because he had so much fear. He was so scared. He judged himself so much. It's like, well, and that's like part of the inspiration and motivation of how do I keep evolving without feeling insecure or detaching myself from the childhood, because many of us are like, just let it go, right? Like let go of the past. Don't live in the past. It's like, no, I'm bringing him with me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like he's the reason.
Right. Yeah, 100%. I went through this June. I went through a breakup that catapulted me into abandonment. Because when I was right before my sexual abuse with my father, my mother left and went back to California. So my mom left me, and then she left me with my father, who then sexually abused me, and I was just a wreck. And so I've had this abandonment in my beingness since that age. And every relationship I get into, I tweak myself so that they don't leave, right? And if they start to pull away, well, then I'm just going to I go in even more. All of a sudden, I'm massively in love with this person. And it's like, you didn't even like them that much, and now you're massively in love with them because they're going to walk away, right? So in June, I was gifted through this breakup to finally go all the way in and find that little girl. And I'll never forget the day that I really found her. Like I really, like you were saying, I grabbed her hand and I said, I'm never going to let you go. Like, I've got you for the rest of your life. You never have to be afraid. You are worthy of everything, and I sat with her and I just watched what she went through and the fear she felt and the detachment and the disassociation from her body. And it was like, I just reassured her that everything was okay and that it made sense what she did. It made sense when my mom left, and I still have the vision of her pulling away in a car and thinking that I did something wrong, and talking to that little girl and saying, you did nothing wrong, right? And you're okay, and you're safe, and you're good, and let's do this. Let's go do this life. And really bridging the woman I am right now with this inner child was really powerful, powerful work. And I did it on my own. I didn't know what I was doing, but I just closed my eyes and I was like, I'm fucking gonna go in and and it was brutally, painstakingly painful, that process, that journey. But if you're gifted, if you're listening to this right now and you're being gifted with something really painful, that's creating a huge amount of grief, or it's dropping you to your knees, or you don't think you're going to make it, it's an invitation for you to reconnect with that inner child, that's been in survival mode, perhaps, or afraid of the world, or in defense mode and trying to just like, block everybody out or whatever it may be. It's inviting you to let that fight against life go, that you're safe, that you're worthy, that you can be seen, that you can take up space, that you can be loved for all of who you are. And recognizing, I don't know about you, but if I'm gifted with deep, deep pain, I devour it, because it's those moments that are the most transformational. And a lot of people, I think the reason they get into the same type of relationships, or they find themselves in the same program over and over again, the same things happening, is because when they are faced with that deep pain, because it's so difficult, we won't let ourselves fully be in it. So we'll either find a different relationship, or get lost in our work, or numb out, or anything in between. And so we don't fully get that transformational gift that we're giving ourselves through that deep, deep pain. Whether it's a friend, a family member, a friendship, a partner, losing your job, I don't know what it is for people, but nothing happens by accident. And everything, in my opinion, is happening in order to transform you and to bring you back to the most authentic place that you can be, like your authentic self, so that you can go and like take on this world, right? And just say, get the fuck out of my way. This is what I want. This is how I'm going to get it. This is what I deserve. And you just go. And so these moments of like falling on the ground, my God, pause your life and go in, because those are the only moments where massive transformation happens, is those massive breakdowns. It's just, and we don't take advantage of them because it's so difficult. It
Yeah,
feels
it
so
hurts.
hard. It hurts.
Yeah, it's the processing. I think that's the challenge, and doing it. I think doing it by yourself it can be even harder. I mean, that's why, like, for example, for me, and I'll ask you about what you do more, but like, I've got a community of people that I work with, in one of my programs, and so a lot of the transformation, the healing is easier because there's so much love and support through the process, which is like, I always tell everyone who starts working with me is like, this is the family that you didn't have when you were a child, so that
What
you
is
can
it? What is
reparent
it? A
yourself.
community that you have?
No, it's like I got a 20-week program that I deliver that's just taken through a step-by-step process to help people to,
Wow.
overcome their trauma and pain and stuff like that. But one of the keys of it is to have a space, where you feel heard, understood, loved, supported, encouraged, because that's the one thing that we were missing, I believe, when we were children, was that unconditional love, support, empowerment, a positive environment.
Yeah, I believe that.
Tell us about like, how do you help people? Like, give people a bit of an insight on what you've got available. I know that you go live on YouTube once a week, and you're on Instagram and stuff like that. But if people want to work with you, how do they get in touch? And like, what have you got available for them?
I mean, I have a Patreon community, that I show up in a lot. And then I've been doing these 21-day intensives that I've really loved doing, called Align, and they're just, fuck, man, they're just transformational. They will change your life. And it's funny because one of the reasons I think it changes people's lives, because basically what we do is we just sit for 21 days and we go inward for 30 minutes quietly, hundreds of us all over the world. We just sit, and I'll do some guidance of like, I'm not my thoughts, or what thoughts are arising, or this is okay too, whatever. But what's most transformational, I think, is that people are heard, they're seen, they're allowed to just be, and they don't feel alone. And that, I think, is what is the most beneficial, is they can show up, and every single day they're showing up with the same people, having the same experiences or different experiences, but they're supporting each other, and they don't feel alone. So it really doesn't matter what's coming out of my mouth, really. They just want to connect to each other, and feel heard. But my Align classes I offer every couple, like maybe every 6 weeks, I do a live 21-day class, and then my Patreon, and then kind of whatever arises in the moment of other things like courses or classes, or, but it's, and my YouTube channel, on my Instagram and things like that. But in terms of working with me, it's just my online community right now, and then my Align class right now.
And I was just in North Carolina at the Art of Living Retreat Center, and I did check your story on Instagram, and I saw that you are also going to be speaking there, which is absolutely extraordinary. Congratulations. When is that? And I know you say, are you doing a three-day retreat?
Yeah, the Art of Living in Boone, North Carolina. It's so funny you were there right after me, and that you're doing a workshop, I think, as well, right?
September, yeah, end of September.
September.
Next, 2024.
I'm my 3-day workshop is in April 19th to the 21st, and I'm really excited about it, because any event that I've done, it's just been a 1-day event or an evening event. No, actually, I did a 3-day workshop, but I went to the place, I did my thing, and then I left. So it was kind of felt very, very separate. And this is like you're immersed with the people, which I'm really excited about. Like, you have breakfast and lunch and dinner, and it's just going to be like, that to me is what's really exciting about the retreat, the workshop is. And I think that's what humanity needs more and more right now, is this just like, coming together and, being with each other in person, humbling ourselves. I don't believe in that hierarchy. I'm a teacher and you're the student. Like, it just doesn't work for me, So I think that programming needs to end.
Yeah. I always said, I'm a teacher as much as I am a student.
Yeah.
Like, constantly. That's the best way, because otherwise it's like, well, how are you going to grow if you think you know it all? We don't. Like, we're learning from everyone all the time. We're learning from life experiences and that. So that's amazing. But I'm excited. I'm actually having a call with Kelsey.
Oh, tell her I said
tonight.
She's so
yeah.
awesome.
I'm having a call with her today just to have a chat about September and what's going to happen. So it's exciting. But Lorie, it's been amazing to spend time with you and connect. And like I said before we started, I'm like, I love your energy. I love your vibe. I love what you stand for. I know that there's obviously still a journey for you to go through. I know there's a journey for me to go through. But, really, plant the seed, for us to do something. If it's 2024, 2025, moving forward, together on stage, have an event, or, be in studio doing a podcast together again. I can sense and feel that is definitely something that's going to manifest, because, like you said, we're in this journey of evolution, and I know that, more people need community. They need to feel understood and heard, and like I always say, gravitate towards that which makes sense, and that you feel, adds value to your life. And actually, you talk about the whole feeling thing, and I'm like, I always say, everything you feel is real.
Mm-hmm.
But because of the lack of connection we have with ourselves, we don't trust ourselves enough.
Mm-hmm.
To be able to, like, tune in and act, so thank you so much for your time. And I know, like, as we were just speaking and going through this, like, navigating through this conversation, this exchange of energy, like, I had shivers and shit, man. Like, I was like very, like, connected to, like, everything you were saying. But I also know that like everyone who is listening is like, shit, like I needed to hear this today. Like this is deep, you know, like these are the conversations that we need to be having where the healing happens, you know? So thank you so much for opening your heart and for showing up and being yourself as well and being vulnerable like that to go like, I'm still on this journey. You know, I think many teachers or people who have become at a certain level already step into this like, no, I've got it all figured out, you know, like this is me, you know, and you're doing the opposite, which is so inspiring.
I made that commitment to myself. Like, you know, it's difficult when you have an audience and people watching you and you have good stuff to teach, and you help people. There's a deep programming that we have in this collective field where that means that you have your shit together. That means that you don't show your vulnerable issues. And that is a big problem, because what that does is that the people that are listening to us then compare themselves to us when behind the scenes we're struggling, or we have moments where we're in whatever, right? And so the more that I can just share my shit and also share my profound awarenesses and my what the fuck did you just say moments at the same time that I'm like, oh yeah, I've got this core issue that I'm still dealing with. That's human. That's the human. That's what we're here to embrace and to integrate. And nobody is not constantly in a process of evolution and working through their shit. No one. Bring maybe the Tibetan monks, you know, but most humans are still navigating this evolution, and peeling back the layers. So yeah, it's been incredible. We could go real deep the more that we kind of weave together. So thank you for all of your work. You're absolutely freaking incredible and so authentic. And yeah, it's whatever moment you shifted and you jumped in, and you kept going. Thank you for that, because it's not easy to kind of keep going, to keep putting one foot in front of the other, no matter what obstacle comes in. It's like that pull that you had that just kept you going, because I'm sure your journey wasn't easy. But the fact that you just kept going and kept going and kept going and kept going, and you continue to, is going to change the world. And then you'll have that ripple effect, the domino effect on so many other people. You know, that's why that authenticity is so important, that humble authenticity that you have. So thanks for you.
Thank you, Lorie. I received that. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And just finishing up, where can people find you?
On Instagram, Lorie_Ladd. On YouTube, Lorie Ladd. Facebook, just Google Lorie Ladd and you'll find me.
Awesome. I'll put all your links and stuff in the description so people can just click on it and connect with you straight away. That's a wrap. Thank you so much, Lorie. I appreciate you. You're amazing. Let's stay in touch, and I'll see you guys on the next episode. Thank you for joining me on this journey of self-discovery and growth. If you're ready to grow and reach your full potential and find inner peace, send me a DM that says, I want inner peace, and I'll send you the next steps. You can accomplish anything you set your mind to. When you change your mind, you change your whole life. So don't hesitate and send that DM over to me. Myself and my team can't wait to meet you and witness your transformation in full glory. See you next week.